we think about how we measure the value of a brand, we always look at it in this context, which is the equity of a brand is the lifetime value of the expectation you've had from that promise versus the experiences that you've had in each interaction with the brand. That's how you build a brand. The academic community started turning its attention to this notion of something called brand attachment. And it was building off of actually psychological research that looked at why we become attached to certain objects. Take brands out of the equation, but we may have a specific attachment to different people, different objects. And it was a really interesting construct that required a lot more study. And what we saw was in the Journal of Marketer in 2010, a team of researchers looked specifically at this thing that we're seeing in consumer psychology about attachment. How does it relate to brands? And what they found, which was really interesting, was that as they ran a number of studies and looked at how people made decisions, a lot of times we look at attitudes. I think something's cool, I like it, I want to share it with somebody else. All of those attitudinal statements were less predictive of people's behavior than how attached they were, particularly when we looked at attachment in two dimensions. One, how much do I see that as being like me or the opposite of me? And the other is prominence, which is how easily do those thoughts and feelings come to mind? Do I have to think about it, or do those feelings come to mind with very, very little effort? And what they found is that as you looked at those two different dimensions, in this upper quadrant, you would find these brands that people would talk about that were a lot like them. If they had to choose a brand that was their surrogate, it was in that upper right. I'll share some data that we just did. We did it with our partner, a great firm called United Sample, uSamp, and they have this really fantastic technology called Instantly, which allows us to get out there and research a broad spectrum of consumers and make it very easy for them to tell us how they feel. They're doing quantitative studies, but we can do it on mobile phones, tablet devices, and it's all optimized. And so it gives us access to a very broad range of consumers. And this was a study that we fielded in early December, right before the holiday season really set in. About 5,000 US consumers, adults 18 and over, and we put 25 consumer technology brands in front of them. And it was a spectrum. Most of them, though, were a bias towards, we really wanted to look at the parent brands. So normally we'd look at the iPhone, the iPad, some of these product level brands. I wanted to see how much attachment do people have to the brand that's sitting at the top, the maker? So we're looking at Apple and Microsoft and Google. There's been a lot of question in the marketing community about how much do those brands actually drive the purchase decision versus how much of it is all about the product and the technology. And this is by no means the definitive answer to the question because we only looked at 25 brands. But there were some very interesting results that came out of it, and I want to just kind of share those with you.